Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, I think, is not getting the attention it deserves. This game is still set to release this year, and I think should be one of the most anticipated games of the year, considering it's being developed by Machine Games, the same studio that developed the recent Wolfenstein games, and seem to be very good at one thing:
killing Nazis.
However, just like with what feels like every other game in recent times, this new Indiana Jones game isn't without controversy. Oh boy, here we go again.
Do it.
I'm gonna go over that along with all the new information there is to know about Indiana Jones and all the different ways in which you'll be able to kill Nazis in the game. Hey everyone, it's Andrew. They've really got it out for Nazis over there at Machine Games in Sweden. Okay, first up, let's get it out of the way. Let's talk about the controversy. It has been 100% confirmed that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is an Xbox exclusive. It's also coming out on PC, but they have confirmed that this game will never be coming to PS5 or PlayStation consoles. I am a PlayStation boy. This is super disappointing, especially considering Indiana Jones is such a large international licensed property. The Indiana Jones franchise is huge. And the fact they're limiting this to a specific player base only, being Xbox and PC users, basically Microsoft fanboys, is really disappointing. The reason this is happening and the fact that the game is an Xbox exclusive is because the game is being published by Bethesda, who is now owned by Microsoft. Microsoft acquired Bethesda's parent company back in 2021 for a deal that was worth something like $7.5 billion, which is nearly double what George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney for.
I think it's too much.
And therefore are trying to get more users to play on Xbox and PC, Microsoft products, therefore making the Indiana Jones game an Xbox and Microsoft exclusive. Also, interestingly, as you might have heard, Todd Howard is an executive producer on this game, and apparently the idea of the Great Circle was his idea.
I'd had this idea for what it would be like and the story, what Indy was going after, what period of his life it was in.
It was something he'd been developing for years. This was confirmed by a few developers in a recent interview that it was Todd Howard's actual idea to create the story of the Great Circle and have Indiana Jones go on this great adventure, which is where we've recently also learned more about the plot of this game and the narrative that you're going to be following. I think everyone gets the sense of a great Indiana Jones journey from what we've seen in the gameplay footage and the trailers. The game itself, the aesthetic, the vibe, and the performances here feel so true to the Indiana Jones spirit. Even more so, some might argue, than the recent films, which were met with incredibly mixed reviews, putting it lightly. The game actually begins in the famous Marshall College. All those scenes in the movies where we see Indiana Jones teaching, that's set here, and that's where the game begins, where a relic is stolen, and Indiana Jones wants to track down the thief and the reason they stole the artifact. And then while tracking down the thief, Indy stumbles into an ancient conspiracy involving the theory of the Great Circle, which is basically the alignment of multiple significant sites around the globe and mysterious artifacts that are connected to these sites. So some of these sites include the locations you'll be visiting, like the pyramids of Egypt, the mountains of the Himalayas, the Vatican in Rome, and a bunch more, which I'll get to in a bit. The idea is that all of these sites are connected in some way, and the enemy in the game, the Nazis, are also aware of this and are searching for the artifacts themselves because they believe they hold some kind of power. In the end, just like in pretty much every other Indiana Jones film we've seen, the enemy is on the quest for power, for glory, for world domination, for galactic domination. I mean, I think lots of us agree Indiana Jones exists in the same universe as Star Wars. And the game is actually a canon Indiana Jones story. The game is set between the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade, even though the Temple of Doom was the second Indiana Jones film that actually takes place before Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's very confusing. Just like George Lucas filmed the original trilogy before he made the prequels, there is no form of chronology to any of this. I can barely make sense of it. But set in 1937, you play, of course, as Indiana Jones and travel the world in search of these stones, trying to get them before the Nazis do. Now, I want to draw your attention to the list of locations we'll be visiting in this game and the detail in which they look like they've been created. The mountains of the Himalayas look fraught with cold weather, snowstorms, ice, and also, why is there a ship in the mountain? How did this boat even get up here? I love the mystery of this, and it also appears that after this grenade goes off, you're going to be riding this boat all the way to the bottom.
Choo-choo!
It's also the first time you're going to be able to explore the Vatican in Rome, and I believe the first time Indiana Jones has been here. The pyramids of Egypt look absolutely stunning. I'm curious if we're going to be able to explore these like in Assassin's Creed Origins, and if you're going to be able to actually climb to the top as Indiana Jones. I highly doubt it. Indiana Jones is no assassin. And also the jungles of Thailand's Sukhothai look really interesting to explore. All the biomes are completely different, and apparently these are only some of the locations in the game that they've revealed so far. There's going to be more, likely completely different from what we're already seeing here. Perhaps we'll be traveling to Greece to the Acropolis, or perhaps to Stonehenge, and this game will finally explain how these rocks got here in the first place, because no one still knows, even to this day.
If you were to draw a line through these ancient sites around the globe, you get a perfectly aligned circle.
Now, we also learned more about the villains of the game. This is Emmerich Voss, who we saw more of in the first trailer, and he has some kind of obsession with finding these artifacts, I guess from an archaeological point of view, but also thinking they can bring him power. And the new villain we've been introduced to is Victor Gantz. And basically, he's the brawn to Emmerich Voss's brains. Apparently, he really dislikes Voss's obsession with these artifacts, and the two kind of interact with one another as uneasy allies. They don't really get along, but just know that they have a job to do. He's like the henchman of Voss, and apparently he's really afraid of heights, which doesn't make sense for him to be way up here on this ship in the mountains of the Himalayas, about to fall hopefully to his death. I want to also talk about gameplay because some people have a criticism of the game being in first person. When people think of an Indiana Jones style game, they think of Uncharted and the Tomb Raider series, both of those being pretty much based on the idea of Indiana Jones and expected, I guess, a new Indiana Jones to be a third person game. There are sections of the game which you'll play in third person, but these are mostly just mechanics based, like climbing and platforming. And the game is of course developed by Machine Games, who are first person specialists. And I think making the game first person also is a bit of a tactical move on their part. Yes, they're very good at it, but also they don't really want the comparisons to be drawn between this game and Uncharted and Tomb Raider, especially considering how well received both the Uncharted and Tomb Raider series of games are received. They want to set this new Indiana Jones game apart from those. And yes, even though both those franchises and series take so much inspiration from Indiana Jones, I think it makes sense to create something quite different that ties into the strengths of Machine Games' previous work. Puzzle solving is also something we've seen more of in recent gameplay footage and will be a huge gameplay function. It looks like there's a lot of creativity that's been put into the puzzle solving side of things, especially considering the fact you'll be playing in first person. You're going to have to use your environment around you to solve these puzzles. Can pick up objects. Weapon pickups are also a thing in this game. You won't only have access to your whip and your fists and your gun. There are other weapons you can acquire in the world as you explore, which is also linear for the most part. Most of the missions and maps are linear, but apparently there are also going to be open areas which you can freely explore, and I believe there'll be a bit of Metroidvania style of gameplay where you'll come back to areas and revisit once you've figured out how to unlock them, I guess. Have you tried turning it on and off again? Maybe he didn't whip it hard enough. Also great hearing more of Troy Baker's performance as Indiana Jones.
Gotta find the stone and get off this shit.
I think it's kind of funny considering Troy Baker is playing Indy. He played Sam in Uncharted 4, Nathan Drake's brother, and also, of course, plays Joel in The Last of Us. But apparently he's a bit of an Indiana Jones mega fan. He knows a lot of the Indiana Jones lore, and at times during development and doing the voiceover was even improvising lines for Indy to make them sound more like something he would say as opposed to what the developers and writers wrote. But he's not only doing the voiceover, it's a full body performance, including motion capture of his body, his face, and his voice all at the same time. At times, I think he doesn't fully sound like Harrison Ford. He sounds like someone doing a Harrison Ford impression, but to be honest, how much better can it get?
Can't give you what I don't have.
I'm convinced, and I'm sure once you're in the game and actually playing, it's going to be such a great performance to witness, which is part of what this game is. I also saw some complaints about the length of certain cutscenes that we've seen in some of the footage we've been given. People saying that the cutscenes are too long, but at the end of the day, this is an Indiana Jones story. Half the experience of this is basically playing through an Indiana Jones style film. You're playing through one of his adventures, and that's going to involve longer cutscenes where you're watching this kind of as a bit of a movie. I'm honestly looking forward to that side of this. And like I said, they really seem like they've captured the spirit of Indiana Jones and what an Indiana Jones adventure and story should be in this game, even in the brief amount of content content we've seen so far, and that has me so excited to get hands-on with this thing. And considering everything I've said in this video, regardless of how the game performs, it seems like it's going to be one of the most innovative and most original Indiana Jones games created. There is quite a bit of a history of Indiana Jones games in the past. It's been quite a while since we've had one. To me, this game looks super promising and hopefully will be a memorable experience. Hopefully more memorable than some of the recent Indiana Jones we've had. Not to make the comparison, but you know what, I am making it. So you're excited for this game? You're going to play it when it comes out? Let me know in the comments. And I recently got to play Star Wars Outlaws, so for my impressions on that game, watch this video here. Also come follow me on Instagram, Twitter, join my Discord and TikTok, and thanks for watching this. My name's Andrew. I'll catch you soon.